taking three.
Going for the St. Louis now.
Oh no!
Son of a bitch.
You get your two?
Yeah. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course. And today I'm going to take a look at, or rather we are going to take a look at a replay that was sent in by one of you guys, one of my great subscribers here. This is Croston, and he is in his tier 10 Yamato. Yes, so this is also the first time that the channel gets to see a Yamato replay, so that is awesome. Fairly excited when I saw this replay as well, just because of the sheer amount of damage, right? So in terms of talking about the Yamato, you know, I'm not going to be able to give a whole lot of tips and pointers on how to play the Yamato better, as I don't actually have a Yamato, plus I'm not necessarily the best person at battleships. However, what this replay does also have going for it, apart from awesome Yamato replay and you know, doing a bunch of damage, is there's some great teamwork here as well. What I liked so much about the teamwork I saw is what the team was able to overcome in this battle. I thought was pretty great. So you can see the battle's just loading up here. We're getting the Yamato up to speed. Now obviously armor piercing is loaded. That is one thing that I can say is a definite. You will need your armor piercing on your Yamato. God, that thing is beastly, isn't it? Oh yes, I want a Yamato very bad, and it is only because it is so awesomely big. I don't really care about, you know, using it strategically or using it in clan wars or anything like that. No, that's not why I have battleships. I've got battleships because they are big and awesome ships. I mean, look at this thing. Look at that. It's just spectacular. Anyway, stop oohing and ahhing over here over the Yamato. So, what we're going to start looking at here is just the way that the Allied team sort of disperses itself, and the points that, you know, there's 3 cap points here, and how they go about capping the points. So you'll notice right off the bat that there is an Allied ship headed towards the northernmost point, right? And you would think that that might be foolish. And sometimes, most times, it is. Yeah, sure. But it doesn't always it doesn't always have to be foolish, right? Like, if the person who's charging up there to the north, if they're a skilled player and in the proper ship, that would be a fast maneuverable ship, some cruisers might be able to pull it off, but it is hard. It is hard, let me tell you. But if that person is smart, you know, they'll be able to go in there, maybe size up the enemy and get out, or, best case scenario, right, cap the point. So, yeah, it's up to the player who's going to be doing that sort of maneuver, and given that this is I've been playing ranked battles all day, so I called it a ranked battle. But given that this is a random battle too, you know, you can basically make that call on your own if you're comfortable with it or not. Given especially too in this case that the majority of the team is the Allied team here is sticking together. So taking a look at the minimap, you can see that the majority of the Allied vessels are going to be pushing into the southernmost cap point. I believe that's point C. Not 100% sure. They might have rearranged it. I don't know. We're going to call it the southern cap point. So they're pushing in there, attempting to cap that, right? There are a few Allied vessels here that are putting pressure on the middle point, the B cap point. So you can see that there are, you know, there's a cruiser here with them. There's another enemy battleship here with them as well. So the things aren't looking too bad. I mean, biggest concern at this point in the battle is where are the enemy heavy hitters, right? Here come some ships that have started popping up. Now we've got this enemy cruiser over here. It's a New Orleans, and he's more or less just sitting there. All right. Shots are on their way out for the enemy New Orleans, and just sort of hoping to do a bit of damage in the salvos that are going out, right? So I hit him a few times, you know, did a bit of damage there. That's not too bad at all. But then we have an enemy Des Moines right here. So yeah, that is the tier 10 American cruiser. The thing looks fairly beastly. I've been looking at the stats of the tier 10 ships as well. I'm still leaning on my Zhao. I still think that my Zhao is going to be the best ship for me. But I also do want to get myself a Des Moines fairly soon. Anyway. So you can tell that with the Yamato, now I've also been doing some research obviously into the Yamato, right? How people have been playing it. Generally speaking, people, what they do with their Yamato is they'll point the ship directly at whatever target they want to fire at, and then they'll you know, keep firing from the bow guns, right? This way you're limiting any sort of incoming damage that you can take as well, and it kind of makes the Yamato like a little bunker there while it's holding out in the sea, but only really have to do that, I understand, when you're actually taking fire. If you're not taking fire, you can get yourself into a position, almost like Croston's in now, where he's able to more or less just fire salvo after salvo into the enemy ships without taking any or very little incoming fire. Taking a look at the overall strategic outlay of the map there as well, while the Des Moines is being finished up here as well, important to note that the cruiser who went off to A, we had pointed him out earlier, he did in fact manage to cap that point, so fantastic. A is now in the hands of Croston's team. Croston also just scored himself the first kill by taking out that Des Moines, so that's not too shabby at all. And the Allied team is still more or less fighting it out down at C. You can see that the cap is in progress, but it's being contested at this time. And in addition to that, B is also being capped. So right now, things in this battle are looking pretty damn fantastic, are they not? The Allied team is about to cap all 3 points. C has just been capped, so that is excellent. A is capped and is not really coming under any sort of threat. Croston himself is in an excellent position here as well, just to put some pressure and help defend the B point, but also to swing into A if need be. Because keep in mind, again, at these tier 10 battles, right, we still don't have a definite hint as to where the big heavy hitters on the enemy team are. We have a general sense of where they are, but we don't know, have they grouped up since then? Where have they moved since then? Those sorts of things. So we gotta, still play fairly cautiously here as well. Shooting at enemy cruisers in the distance. So fantastic, getting more shots into them and doing critical damage as well. So that's always a plus. Regardless of what critical damage was done, fantastic. And keep in mind, even if the enemy is able to repair that critical damage right away, doesn't matter, now the repair is on cooldown. Circling around into B and bringing it back to the replay here itself. So you're going to see here shortly what happens. Now at this point in the battle, this is the typical point in the battle where people are starting to get really, really confident with themselves, right? Oh my god, they're saying, look, we're kicking ass. We don't necessarily need to be as strategic as we once were, maybe, or we can take a few more chances, right? Because we're almost won. I mean, the enemies are 160 points. That's it, right? We just keep sinking some of their ships, it'll be over. This is wrong to do. And I've talked about before on the channel here, never underestimate your enemy. Never, never, never do it. Croston gets himself another nice kill, took out an enemy cruiser once again, and now he's up to 2 kills. And you'll notice as well that I do have damage counter there up at the top left. So obviously, with the updates, I finally went ahead and got Aslan's mod, and we've got a few extra things going on here as well. So I like the damage counter there. I know a lot of people have had it for a very long time, but I'm just getting into it now. But anyway, you can see, at this point too, everything is still going really, really well for Croston's team. And this is all sort of going in and playing into the whole aspect of maybe people might start taking, more risks now that aren't necessarily justifiable. Because the enemy team is still out there. They're still out there. They can still put up a bit of a fight. In fact, they are now capping the B point. Doesn't really, not that big of a deal, especially considering A and C are still under control. So you still lead in cap points that way. But it's, sort of the prelude of things to come, if you will. That North Carolina. So we can start seeing more enemy battleships popping up, right? So clearly the enemies who went north are starting to make their presence felt. Clearly this is where the majority of the enemy heavy hitters have gone. And this is what we need to start paying attention to, I should say. Because look, I mean, you can't... It's one thing to have all 3 caps right and go, ooh, we're going to win. But you really can't let your guard down until it's all over. These guys more or less just snuck in here. I mean, they have cover the entire way getting into that B point. If they go around back the islands, it's not until they're more or less in the B point, like they are now, that they become sighted, because you're going to have actual line of sight on these targets, as opposed to a big mountain blocking your way. So you'll never see through a mountain, right? At least you should never see through a mountain, should say. Anyway, but yeah, so you got to keep that in mind as well. So now the enemy has capped B. The enemy at this point as well is also capping A, so it's, okay, alright, things are going to be a little more hectic here. The battle just wasn't ours to take, to pick off the tree. We're actually going to have to fight for this. So Croson here is starting to put in any shots he possibly can into any enemy ships that are within range, but ideally as well, you'll notice that he's been targeting the lowest the ship with the lowest HP, which is obviously a smart thing to do as well, because you want to try and get that ship gone first, if at all possible. If you have an actual shot on that ship, then you're going to want to take that shot. Incoming fire coming from enemy battleships in the background. So again, you can't count your chickens before they're hatched, or count your eggs before they're hatched. I don't know how that saying goes, but you know what I'm talking about here. Because the majority of the enemy heavy hitters, their big battleships and cruisers and whatnot, went to the northern part of the map. What we were fighting down there in the south wasn't really the biggest ships that the enemy had to offer. It wasn't the biggest concentration. Now the enemy's making themselves felt. So now, it's up to the team at this point to start regrouping. So you'll notice immediately on the mini-map that the Allied ships have now started going towards the B cap, right? As soon as this took place, everyone turned about, and they're on their way to B now. B is where we're going to be fighting it out, because B is going to decide this game more or less. We need to take the B cap to ensure the advantage, and as well to put the enemy at such a disadvantage that maybe it'll dishearten them, or they'll have to take bigger chances, and then we can exploit that and get some nice broadside citadels on them and take them down as quick as possible, right? That's what you want to sort of do as well, based on my sort of readings and looking at these higher tiers. Especially you do see it in tier 9, I can't say you don't, and tier 8 as well, but you'll notice as well that the enemy or battles tend to happen at longer ranges at first and then come closer in, because what's happening is the opposing fleets are attempting to put if my fleet would be attempting to put the enemy fleet at a disadvantage so that my fleet can take advantage of it, and vice versa for the enemy fleet. So that's why the battles are happening at a further range, and it takes a while for things to start picking up, because generally speaking, these people aren't willing to take rash chances right at the beginning that could result in their death. They'd rather wait it out a few minutes, see what's going to happen, see what the enemy position is, and what we can do to exploit it. And that's exactly what's taking place here. People didn't just rush into the B cap zone. Even though the enemy has B, it's not a matter of getting into B, start capping it, and then take out the enemy ships. In this case, stressing that this case, because not always is it going to be this way, but in this case, it makes total and complete sense to take your time, do some damage to the enemy ships, maybe try and push them out of B before any of your ally ships actually go in there and take it. Now, why in this case does it work? It's the simple fact that there are so many cap points in your favor right now, in Croson's favor right now. You have the luxury of making those decisions and taking that time. If it wasn't for the cap point lead here, then no, unfortunately you would have to go in there right away. You wouldn't have, you probably wouldn't be able to group up with your entire fleet and push together into the point. Just don't have the time. Luckily, it's all working out in Croson's favor. You can see that now B is being captured once again by the Allies, so fantastic. The enemy ships that are around, they are still around, but they're all losing health, right? There's damage being done to these guys, so this is good. It'd be better if they were being taken out, but as long as consistent damage is being done, we're okay, because eventually you're going to whittle these people down. And again, I mean, the nice luxury here of being in a nice big Yamato too, right? You've got all these hit points, You do want to be aware, obviously, like Croson here, of enemy torpedoes, and that was a great torpedo dodge, great judgment there in terms of when to turn in order to straddle those torpedoes, so that's great as well. And these are things that you want to have nailed down when you are a battleship driver before you get to this tier, because it would just suck so bad to take, to eat a whole bunch of torpedoes, die, and then have to pay, I don't know what the repair bill is on this thing, probably hundreds of thousands, right? I know it is, it has to be, but you want to take your time and never get too focused on one thing. If Croson didn't see those torpedoes, things might have gone a whole lot differently here. Well, for him anyway, it wouldn't have ended as well, I should say. There's really nothing stopping the inevitable here, especially now at this point in the battle, where the Allied ships have moved in, taken B, and now it's starting to establish almost like a defensive line around B, or even sort of maybe an entrenchment around B, if you will. And this is key, this is important, because the enemy, obviously, now the pressure is on them to come in and take the point from you, from your allies, right? So this is going to put the enemy ships at a disadvantage, because no longer can they position themselves in nice defensive angled spots, right? They're going to have to get right in here and start capping. Someone is going to need to take the chance and go in there and start capping. That person who decides to do it, it's a huge risk, because more often than not, you're going to be the center of attention of all of the Allied ships in this case that are attempting to defend that point. So this is, again, what I'm talking about in terms of positioning and trying to put the enemy at the disadvantage, when to do that and when not to do it. Another nice kill there for Croson as well, so that is fantastic. Another Citadel, so we're up to 3 kills now as well. Not too shabby at all. Another nice torpedo dodge here as well, so that's great. Still taking down some enemy battleships in the distance. There's an Amagi over there, so really want to try and get this guy. Just do a bit of extra damage, right? Why not? No big deal. So just lining up shots onto the Amagi here. There's the initial salvo, that went out. Nice Citadel there as well, 17,000 damage to add to the overall total. That is not too shabby at all. Taking a look around at some of the other enemies that do exist here, because the Amagi is now behind cover, we do notice some enemy cruiser there in the background, but more importantly an enemy battleship here as well. North Carolina, yes. I'm going to try and get this guy gone, because now, I mean, it's really just a matter of how many more ships can we kill before the battle ends at this point, right? Especially considering the cap advantage right now, the point lead, and the remaining enemy ships and their positions, right? That's important too, because right now, I mean, the Amagi's more or less out of the battle because he's behind cover. We've got a North Carolina at less than a quarter health, so that's going to be the big focus. And the North Carolina is supported by an Ibuki. So the Ibuki isn't a big concern for the Yamato right now. You would want to focus on the North Carolina like this. The enemy does have a destroyer lurking around though somewhere, so need to be aware of that as well, just to make sure that we're not overstretching ourselves or just wandering off alone. Nice easy target for an enemy destroyer to pick off. There we go, battle is over, and like I said, that was an excellent battle, wasn't it? I really enjoyed it, just to see how the team came back, the whole team dynamic there. And this little black screen here, whatever, we're actually flipping over screenshots, there we go. So 360,000 credits earned, 7,500 experience, that's not too bad at all. In terms of damage, in case you didn't see it there, it was 162,000 damage done with those 3 kills and that amount of Citadel hits, so that is not too shabby at all. Nice results here to see, and then overall top of the team obviously as well, right? Top of both teams as well. So Croson really did a nice job here. Great team dynamic, great teamwork. Love this replay. So that's going to be the end of today's video. If anyone else has replays they want to send in, good or bad, I'll use them all. Be sure to send them in, thotgor1@gmail.com. It's down there in the comment section, or it's down there in the video comment section below. As always, thank you for watching the video through. Hit the old like button if you liked today's video. Leave any comments you may have for me as well. Love reading those and responding back to them. And as always, folks, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.